What's up, my flathead loving YouTube friends? That doesn't even roll off the tongue the same as triple loving, does it? Well, you guessed it. It's time. Back on Project Flathead. It's been a long time. It's been a year since I've even touched this engine. I painted it last spring with big hopes I was going to start digging into it and getting it all back together, but you know, life got in the way again, as usual. So I'm trying to do little videos of certain steps on building this ultimate Ford Flathead. And so I'm trying to just do little videos of all these steps. I don't want to do it all in one big video because I'm hoping if you guys are trying to build the ultimate Ford Flathead, that you can just review each video that are a little bit shorter than trying to watch an hour-long video and me cramming a whole bunch of information in. So on this video, I want to talk about the valves. And this is something I struggled on for a long time. And I finally ended up posting a question in the Flat Spot, a group on Facebook, and a guy, same name as mine, his name's Todd, grew up in Champlin, Minnesota, lived in Arizona now. He responded to my question, says, hey, he messaged me, he says, hey, here's my phone number, give me a call. This is an easy fix and I can explain the whole thing to you. And so I call him up. Super nice guy. We had a lot in common. I've grown up in Minnesota all my life. I grew up in Blaine, and he grew up in Champlain. He's just a couple years older than me, so we hit it off great. And talked a whole bunch, and he explained this valve deal to me. So these are a Chevy stainless steel 1.5-inch valve. Flatheads run the same intake and exhaust size valve. They're both the same. I bought all my parts from Red Headers. My valves, timing gears, camshaft, pistons, rings. I thought it was just easiest to get all my parts from one source because they had everything. And there was one thing that was failed, and maybe they explained it to me, and this engine's a new deal to me, and I might have not have caught on when the guy was explaining it to me, but there's something very important you need to do to these valve stems to make this valve work in this engine. And I didn't realize it, and like I said, maybe he explained it to me, and I missed this whole part of our conversation. But you have to move the valve keeper groove on the valve to give your spring, wherever I got a spring here, let me grab a spring, to give your spring enough installed compression. So you want 85 foot-pounds of installed compression at 2 inches. That's your install height. And when I checked, so here's my valve assembly. Here's the guide, here's the keeper down here, here's the spring retainer. And when this is in the block with your clip in there, everything installed in the block, you want 2 inches between this surface and this surface. You want 2 inches. I had 2 inches, 230 thousandths is what I had. So what you can do is add shims down here and to change that height. It would have taken that much shim to get it to the 2 inches that I want. I want a 2-inch installed height to give me 85 pounds of spring pressure. So to add 230 thousandths worth of shims, I'm thinking that doesn't seem right. Why would you want to put a stack like that in there? So Todd explains all this to me. He's like, yeah, you just have to, he says, if you know any machinists, these are very machinable. He says they just have to machine the groove in a different spot. So here's the stock groove. I had a machinist move the groove 230 thousandths. So that gets me to my 2-inch install height now. So when this is in the block and everything's in place and I'm on the new groove in my valve stem, I'm at 2 inches now. It's perfect. No shims. I'm not going to have to put any of these shims. I got all these bags of shims. I'm not going to have to use one now, because we machine that groove in there to the correct spot, right to there. Chevy valve, Ford motor, these are the valves everybody uses, but that thing there, moving that groove is very, very important. Like I said, you can shim it, but everybody has a debate of why add all this extra weight into your valve train when if you can get a hold of a good machinist, he can move that groove for you and you're set. So that's how to make a Chevy valve work in a Ford Flathead as far as your spring, getting your correct spring height set up. The reason I know all these poundages they sent the sheet with, they even say right here, install height should be between 1.9 and 2 inches for best results. Look down here in the chart, and 2 inches is 85 pounds. And they say this is gonna be a supercharged motor, to run the springs a little on the light side. So that's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna go with supercharged motor. So that explains the whole valve setup. One other little tip and trick here I got on the Ford Flathead, when you're running an electric fuel pump, which I will be on this motor, not running a mechanical, can't, because I'm gonna have a supercharger in the way. This is the push rod, the push rod fuel pump, or the fuel pump push rod bushing. Well, that was a mouthful. So this bushing goes in the block, and your fuel pump push rod runs through here down to your cam, runs off your cam to run your fuel pump mounted on top of your intake. And what you need to do with this is, I don't know if you can see this here, but normally there's a little hole right here in this ring, right in this groove where the oil gets caught in here, and that oil goes in to lubricate your push rod for your fuel pump. You need to TIG weld that hole shut. This is kind of rusty from sitting around now. I'm going to clean this up before I put it back in the block, but you need to TIG weld that hole shut so you don't lose oil pressure into here. That way your oil, with that rod in there, it keeps your oil pressure up. But if that's just an open hole, you'll lose oil pressure in here. I had a Flathead engine builder share that little trick with me. You don't find that a lot of places, about TIG welding that hole shut, but you should. And there's other things you can do. Some people say you put a block on, you can block this off somehow or whatever, but what I chose to do was just TIG weld that hole shut. This bushing would get reinstalled. The bushing has to be in the block, otherwise you'll lose oil pressure like crazy. This bushing needs to be in the block, whether or not if you have the push rod for the fuel pump going through here or not. So it's got to be in the block. Very, very, very important. So this weekend, good buddy of mine, Tim, is coming over. He's a machinist. He's anal as hell. And, you know, here's one of my lifters, one of my adjustable lifters. And he's so anal that one of the reasons I've been putting off putting this engine together is because these valve trains can be insanely difficult to set up correctly with getting everything shimmed where you need it. And this is right up Tim's alley. He loves measuring shit. So if I got a buddy that loves measuring shit, I might as well bring him on board. He was more than happy to help when I asked if he wanted to be part of trying to get this engine together. And so that this weekend we are going to plug away, getting the crank in it, the pistons, the cam in it, and get all the valve trains set. That's my goal for the weekend, is to get the rotating setup all done. I've already done some of the assembly. I've got my new Ross pistons here. Ross forged pistons on my factory rods. I went through and I measured or weighed everything to make sure everything was equal weights. I weighed all my pistons. I wrote a number in them. I weighed all my rods, and they're all within so close. It's just unbelievable. I think at one point in time this motor may have been balanced, because this motor was a good motor when I took it apart. And I see some grinding stuff on the rods in places, and I'm guessing that the last person that built this engine actually went through the effort to balance everything, because the weights on the rods were so close. I don't think it would have been that close factory. You can see my weight I wrote on the pistons. All my pistons were within one number of each other. They were either a 5 or a 6 on that last number, which is insanely close. Ross pistons, extremely good piston, very well made. It's a 3-ring piston I'm running. So we'll get all of them with all the rings and stuff on them, get them all ready to go in. And this one other trick piece I had made up, I don't know if I ever showed this in any of my videos, but this is my pulley for the supercharger setup. Same machinist that did my valves machined up this pulley for me. So here's the serpentine drive for the supercharger, and then here's the V-belt drive for my water pumps and my alternator. So I bought this hub and then had a machinist make this part of it. So this will be the drive on the bottom of the flathead. Same amount of money right here in my hand. It's just, flatheads are so expensive to build. I'm doing one and one only, because I don't think I'll ever put this kind of money into an engine ever again. But doing it for the love. It's going to be a very unique engine. Can't really worry about what stuff costs, but you know, just to have a part right here, it's stupid amounts of money to come up with this stuff, but it'll be very, very unique. So that is my short clip of a video on the Chevy valves. That's how my video will be titled is installing a Chevy valve in a Ford Flathead, what you got to do. And hope this helps other people trying to build themselves the ultimate Ford Flathead. Thanks for watching. Please comment. For my snowmobile fans, we got more snowmobile videos coming, but for right now, there's going to be quite a few videos coming up on this Flathead, because a lot of you Flathead guys have been bugging me in the comments on my sleds. When's the Flathead coming back? When's the Flathead coming back? It's back. It's getting done. I'm hoping to have it on the dyno yet this summer. It's the only way I'm going to be able to actually tune the engine in, I'm thinking, is to have it actually dynoed. And then we can see what it actually built for horsepower. You know, I'm hoping, you know, 275 on the high side. I'm hoping minimum of 250 horse. If we fall below that, I'm not going to be totally bummed out, but I'm really hoping to be in that mid 200 range on it. I know some of these supercharged engines, when they're built, you know, 300 plus, but I don't foresee seeing that out of my engine. But I'm hoping for at least in the mid 200s. So we'll see. The dyno will tell. So thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned. More on the Flathead. Thanks, guys.